Good evening and welcome all. Today is February 18th, 2025, and this is the regular meeting of Salem City Council. I will now call the meeting to order. The invocation will be given by Mr. Clayton Patterson from Allegheny. After the prayer, I ask that you remain standing as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you for letting us be here together. I want to thank you for the blessings and protections you put on each of us. Please, Lord, if you could help in this meeting, help all those who are making decisions to make them as you would want them to make them. Please, Lord, just help this meeting to go well. Please, Lord, just have thine way in what we do. Please, Lord, bless us all. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Clayton. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Baer.
Present.
Ms. Bricker.
Here.
Mr. Gano.
Here.
Mr. Newman.
Here.
Mr. Knoll.
Present.
Mr. Stockman.
Here.
Mr. Zellers.
Here.
7 members.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've done that before.
Okay. All have received the previous meeting's minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? Are there any petitions or remonstrances? None? Receiving of visitors. Looks like we have visitors tonight. I guess what we'll do is I'll just call you up in order. I see everybody here is for the same subject, the marijuana dispensary. Just a point of information, there's nothing on our agenda tonight with regard to the marijuana dispensary. Certainly always welcome to come to council and voice your opinion. Since there are so many people, I don't want to limit you, but I would ask once you've made your point to allow the next person to come up and speak their piece as well. So forgive me, some of these names are a little difficult to read. Does anybody happen to know who the first person that signed was?
Sarah Rossler?
Come on up.
That'd be me.
Good evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Mayor Cindy and council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Sarah Rossler. I'm here with some young kids from our community who could tell you firsthand what they experienced in their homes as their parents bring their legal marijuana in their home, and they are eyewitnesses to the effects of marijuana in their home atmosphere, the family finances or lack of it, their parents' mood swings, the unpredictable behavior, as well as erratic driving while using legal marijuana. The easy availability of marijuana through local dispensaries only makes marijuana more accessible to kids, which I have brought statistics here tonight, are more prone to addiction as adolescents. I also have with me here tonight parents of grown children who are addicted to medical marijuana, which wreaks havoc in their finances, mental stability, mood swings, erratic behavior expressed through bad decisions made while under the influence of medical marijuana. So these major groups of our community are gravely affected by what others would call their legal right. If you could hear their voices tonight, they would be pleading with you to vote no for a marijuana dispensary within the city of Salem. If someone has the legal right to obtain marijuana, there are dispensaries in East Liverpool, Alliance, Canton, and Canfield. Let them go there. But why would we allow what we already know is destructive and detrimental to our community to come right in our midst? As a Christian activist in this community, I am very proud of this city. I see good things happening. New business opportunities, positive family activities, improved education, the tearing down of negative structures, the beautiful Lincoln Park, youth ministries, building up our youth. Why would we bring a marijuana dispensary right in the center of all that? People say our city will gain income, but that's not true. The income would be a very minimal as simply a new business tax. Governor DeWine intends to add another 20% tax on top of the already established tax, in which he will allocate for jails, prisons, police officers, and drug task forces. If marijuana dispensaries are such a great idea, why would he allocate so much for lockup facilities and public protection? Statistics show, which I have here with me tonight, that marijuana outlets increase property crime, violent crime. Statistics show, which I have with me here tonight, a cannabis use disorder which outlines scientifically the toxicology effects it has on brain cells, brain functions, retardation of development, and addiction. Why would we make this available to our young people? Is it not the job of the governing bodies to protect its constituents? Local cities are already talking about shutting down the dispensaries they open. In closing, I want to thank you for your time and for this opportunity to speak. As a group, we are pleading with you to not allow this harm to come to our kids, our families, our community, our city. I have additional letters that I just wanted to present to the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Bill Barlow.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, esteemed council, and ladies. My name is Bill Barlow. My wife and I moved here a few years ago. I've met with you. You know, we bought a historic home here. One of the reasons that drew us to Salem was the small town, I want to say small town morals, the small town of community. I am retired from law enforcement, and I can say I worked in Florida, and I can say I've seen my city, my beloved city in Florida, be crushed by legal marijuana and dispensaries, and they're struggling with the same things as far as increased police presence and incarcerations and people coming into the community that really are not helping the community. They're downgrading it. So I came up here. We bought a beautiful house. We love this town. I did retire from there. Now I'm pastoring a small church. So obviously, you know, I have a love for people, but I don't think that legalizing, well, it's already legal, but putting a dispensary here is the right choice. I mean, I think there's other ways that we can get revenue. We're doing a great job with Broadway and doing all that stuff, and I love the growth, and I see what we're doing, and I would hate to stop that growth. I would hate to stop the momentum I feel like Salem has. So I'm asking you just to have some wisdom and discretion and pray about whether the fact that, you know, before you take a vote, whenever you take that, I know it's not tonight, but just think about that. Because, listen, if you want to get high, come to church and get high on Jesus. So, but that's, you know, I just wanted to put that out there. We have friends in Denver, and Denver has kind of experienced the same thing my beloved Florida did. Higher DUI rates, a whole bunch of stuff. It was legal out there. They opened all the dispensaries, and now they're seeing a lot of trouble out there. And I just want to caution us against that. You know, I'm not here to disparage anyone. I mean, there's probably people here on both sides, but I just want to give you my input and thought. I'll tell you to have some, think about it, pray about it if you're a prayer, and have some wisdom as you make the decisions on this. All right? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Beth? It's Ames. Ames? Okay. I was hoping you'd fill in the blank for me.
First of all, thank you so much, Council, for the opportunity for us to be able to voice our concerns. We really appreciate it. My husband and I are residents here in Salem, and we really love living here. I wanted to say that first off. You may have read the email that I sent to Mayor Dickey, and she forwarded it to council. In the letter, I included an article written this past January by the mayor of Greenville, Ohio. It's a town very similar to ours, and why they said no to a dispensary in their town. Their mayor, Jeff Whitaker, said, "The National Institute on Drug Abuse provides proof of the long-term effects of cannabis usage affecting brain development, impaired thinking, memory, and learning functions. Cannabis usage has been linked to depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts among teenagers. Those frequently using cannabis experience lower life satisfaction, poor mental health, poor physical health, more frequent relationship problems, less academic and career success, a higher likelihood of dropping out of school, and more job absences, accidents, and injuries." In the recent speech this month given, it was in East Palestine, Governor DeWine stated that he believes that legalizing marijuana was a mistake. He sees firsthand the harm and devastation that has happened because of it. He and the Senate Republicans want to eliminate funding for local governments that have marijuana dispensaries in their communities. He also stated, "There's nowhere that I know where there's such a gap between what the public believes about something and what the real facts are. The facts are marijuana is 2, 3, 4 times more potent than it was in the 60s and 70s. It's dramatically more potent." So please, let's think about this. Let's think about not possible, but the guaranteed negative effects of having easy access to cannabis in Salem. We have signs around our town saying, "Salem says say no to drugs." And we promote campaigns in our schools, and we teach our youth to say no to drugs. And yet we want to bring a dispensary into our community so we can make money? At what expense? At the expense of our children, families, and community? We have many organizations in Salem that truly have the best interests of residents and families in mind. One such shining light is the Brightside Project. Their mission is to provide a safe and welcoming space where children and families can access essential resources, life skills programming, academic support, and career exploration opportunities. I don't know if you know, but in March, they're hosting a youth summit for teens 13 to 18 years old that will focus on mental health, personal development, character building, leadership, personal values, purpose, self-worth, and healthy relationships. Wow. Isn't this the type of thing that we want for the youth and families of our town? Something to give them a hope and a future? I saw on Instagram last night that the Brightside Project is hosting on February 20th a program called a Substance Abuse Awareness. It's for teens and their families. Why would they be hosting this? Because substance abuse and addiction is a real thing. It's a real problem, and people need help. Please let's not turn a blind eye and pretend that what the dispensary sells is no big deal and won't be in the homes of our high schoolers, our middle schoolers, and our elementary schoolers. It will be in the hallways, in our parks, and in our streets. There will be a new type of recreation in town, one that many people would never have had easy access to, and it could come with devastating consequences. In closing, I would just like to say that we are the adults, and we have the responsibility to make decisions that promote the health, safety, and well-being of our families and community. We need to have the courage to stand up and do what we know is right. As Salem's governing body, we are asking that you say no to bringing a marijuana dispensary to our town. Not now, not ever. There will never be a good time for it. I thank you so much for listening.
JW? Cool.
Two letters. That's good. Hello, thank you for your time and thank you for what you do. And first, I thank you guys for your service to the city of Salem. And I'm the director of the Rock of Salem. I didn't prepare anything, but I would like to at least give my opinion and a little testimony. Marijuana, for me, actually was a hindrance to my life. At that time, it wasn't even legal, but I was addicted to it. It actually, literally, my life was to get high. That's what the ramifications were to it. It made me an unproductive student. Actually, if it wasn't for the grace of my employer, I probably wouldn't even have had a job. And I came to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, and he set me free from marijuana. And he called me into youth ministry. And I feel one of the greatest things that I feel my call is to equip kids to know and not make the same mistakes that I have made. When issue 2 was passed in Ohio, to me personally, that was something that was deeply hindered me spiritually, to know that what's going to be happening is our state is going to make things legal that are harmful to its citizens. So anyway, I go to Warren, and by adding a dispensary to our town, I feel as if it is taking the moral parameters of what is happening. This is now you'll be able to go in and buy something that is harming to a person, actually opens up a morality to people that think that it's okay. And it's not okay. And I've actually heard testimonies since issue 2 has been passed of kids having suicidal thoughts, knowing when their parents are high, and telling the difference, and it's harming to the relationship between the parents and the kids. And there's multiple times that I've had to call the anonymous hotline in order to alert actually children's services on some behaviors kids were showing. So my life mission is to help and not hinder kids in any way, and point them in the direction that they should go. And I know it's not an issue tonight, but I appreciate you, and I'm not going to continue to talk about this, but me deeply, I feel like it would be a hindrance to our community in order to allow something like that and open up the moral parameters that smoking marijuana is okay. And also, it is a gateway drug to get into deeper drugs itself. I didn't go very far, but marijuana opened the door up to me to Percocet and also other drugs, and it's always the stepping stone. So there's more that it will go. So thank you so much for what you guys do, and thank you for hearing us tonight.
Steve?
Members of council, thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you for your service to our community. For the last 20 years, I've been doing ministry at the Columbiana County Jail. When issue 2 was being voted on, I have around 25 guys that come to my service. We have 3 different services that we do every week, 3 different groups. I took a poll among the 25 guys and asked them if they could vote, how would they vote on legalizing marijuana? 23 of the 25 guys said they would vote no. If the men in the jail can realize the danger of marijuana and how it has wrecked their lives, destroyed their families, and losing their jobs, how can we as a community not realize the danger of it ourselves? These men have seen what marijuana has done to them firsthand. As he has said, it is a gateway drug. Many of the men there will tell you they started with marijuana, then they went to heroin, then they went to other drugs. They said that it had destroyed their lives. 15 of the 20 men are in there for drug abuse. They are separated from their families. They have lost their job. And now they are trying to get their lives back. Some of the men have asked Jesus into their hearts, and God is helping them. Some of them are going to rehabs to get over their addictions that will cause them to get there in the first place. Salem Council, I just wanted to let you know that if these men in the jail realize how dangerous this is, adding a dispensary will just even cause more problems. Maybe not to them, but maybe to their children or to their families. Thank you, City Council. Please think and vote no on this issue.
I'd like to thank everybody who came tonight to speak on that issue. We do appreciate you participating in the governmental process. So once again, thank you. And we will now move on to the report of city officials.
I'm going to give you a fair warning. Tonight is the State of the City address. It's very long and it's not always so interesting, though you may find it so. So if you feel like you don't want to listen to that whole 11-page report, I understand. It won't hurt my feelings. Okay. So this is the State of the City for 2024, delivered in 2025. In the fire department, Salem Fire Department is comprised of the fire chief, 3 inspectors, 3 captains, 3 lieutenants, and 6 full-time firefighters. In 2024, the fire department dealt with 2,354 total incidents. Of those incidents, 67 were fires, with 33 of those being structural fires. 1,567 were emergency medical calls. 62 of those were motor vehicle accidents, and 7 were motor vehicle accidents versus pedestrians. 135 involved hazardous materials and conditions. 359 were service calls. 93 were good intent. 130 were false alarms, and 3 were severe weather and citizen complaints, among others. The average response time was 4.22 minutes anywhere in the city. The department ambulance transported 99 basic life support and 14 ALS cases and received $75,017.32 for their efforts. And that was mostly from insurance. 3,149 hours of training were completed with 12 classes or tours involving 750 participants. $49,508.90 were received to the department in grants and fees collected other than emergency calls. The department completed 288 commercial inspections. Mutual aid was given 13 times and received 1 time. Automatic aid was given 9 times and received 6 times. Perry Township was the department that we interacted with most times, with Damascus and Green Townships second most frequent, and Winona and Beaver at 2 and 1 respectively. In the utilities department, we had 2 retirees in 24, Terry Ensley out of distribution and collections. He was a foreman, and Jay Klein, class 3 water operator. Brian Hall was promoted to foreman in the distribution and collections department. Logan Berger was promoted to assistant foreman in distribution and collections department. Evan Schneider was promoted to chief operator at the wastewater treatment plant. The new hires were Tanner Kerfman, a Class A CDL water distribution and collections department employee, and Chad Hess, a Class 2 wastewater and Class 2 water as assistant supervisor. In the wastewater treatment plant, phase 3 of the project was started, and it is at 15% completion and was able to close out in 2024. So it started at 15% completion, was able to close out in 2024 with an 80% completion. All 3 trickling filters received new dome covers, and filter 1 had a complete replacement of the filter medium. The sludge dewatering building was constructed, and once the project is completed and the centrifuge is online, it will give us the ability to be 100% independent with our biosolids. The sludge conditioning Pondus building was completed, and installation of the equipment is nearing completion. This will give us the ability to convert aerobic sludge to anaerobic sludge. The new generator was delivered and installed, allowing for all treatment processes and plant equipment to maintain power during outages. Lastly, both anaerobic digesters were rehabbed from the inside out, with the primary getting a new floating lid and the secondary having the existing lid completely restored. Aerobic blower number 1 was rebuilt. 3 out of 4 have now been reconditioned. The chlorine crane structure has been replaced with a new iron and A-frame that were also replaced. A new updated power supply is now feeding the entire crane. Work continued on the building and updating preventative maintenance plans for all existing new equipment. Evan Schneider received his Class 3 water reclamation license, and that's no easy feat. They say that that is equal to having a master's degree. At the water plant, Zachary Van Horn received his Class 1 water supply license. Highland and Stewart Road towers were inspected and cleaned. New pipe work was done on the ferric and chloride and chlorine lines. The sludge pump and backflows were rebuilt. Creek 2 pump had its packing and gland replaced. The turbidity meter on the start filter was replaced. EPA bacteria and chemical lab surveys were completed. Water treatment plant phase 1 was awarded to APO Horo in the fall, and work began in December. Tree removal was completed, and dirt work for access drives and the sludge holding tank were started. The reservoir shoreline improvement phase 1 was bid and awarded to Yarian Brothers. Construction with the first pre-construction meeting was held. This phase will see shoreline protection refortified on both the main and west levees, along with riprap to protect the shorelines around existing overflow pipework. In the water distribution and sewer collection, a new utility truck was purchased. In the vehicle rotation program, a $40,000 grant was received from the Ohio Bureau of Compensation, covering 2/3 of the total cost for the purchase of 2 mobile traffic lights to promote safety while doing work on roadways. The new Ohio EPA lead service line inventory was completed. The annual valve exercise program continued. 40 water main leaks were repaired in 2024. The annual water leak surveys were done and began a new, more detailed plan for detecting harder to find leaks by quadrants. The work continued on backflow and cross-connection plans and inspections. The Goshen Road waterline loop was completed with 2,000 feet of the new main installed, eliminating the dead end at Colonial Drive. 4 new eye hydrants were installed. These continuously monitor pressure to allow for earlier response times to pressure issues and leaks. These were funded through a $10,000 grant from H2 Ohio. 22 existing hydrants were repaired and rebuilt. 3 new hydrants were installed. We currently have 0 hydrants out of service. In administration, the vehicle rotation program was updated. Insurance evaluations were updated. On the police force in the dispatch area, they received a total of 11,179 calls those are for E911 calls, in-person reports, and telephone and radio reports. The most were from 4 p.m. to midnight, which was 4,684, with the least from midnight to 8 a.m., which was 1,827. June was the busiest report month at 1,089. February was the least busy with 830. Medical calls were the highest at 1,335. Other high-ranking calls were alarms, well-being checks, traffic offenses, and miscellaneous. Also of note were 41 missing persons, 76 criminal damaging charges, 154 domestic disputes, 392 lockouts, 381 mutual aids, 180 noise complaints, 168 trespassing complaints, and 50 breaking and entering or burglaries. No homicides were reported. Under patrol activity, we had 6,687 reports by officers. 4 p.m. to midnight was the busiest, with midnight to 8 a.m. being the least busy. There were 826 arrests, 265 custodial arrests, 126 non-custodial arrests, and 126 citations. Citations were 305 moving and OVIs, 129 operator license issues, 46 registrations, 21 equipment, and 24 miscellaneous violations. The force gave 970 documented warnings and 24 parking tickets. There were 25 OVIs, 299 mutual aids given, 5 suicides, 9 natural deaths, 186 medical calls, 616 well-being checks, 77 harassment complaints, 17 custody issues, 173 noise complaints, 8 persons with a gun or a knife, 102 warrant checks, 22 sex offenses, most of those being through the human trafficking program that's through the Ohio General's Office. 545 suspicious reports, 210 thefts, 1 robbery, 25 solicitors, 224 animal complaints, 74 fights or assaults, and 154 domestic abuse, as well as 19 narcotics issues. Of the traffic charges, driving under suspension was the highest at 87, with speeding at 73 and traffic lights at 47. October was the busiest month, and February was the least busy month. Salem Police Department assisted other agencies with arrest 126 times. The Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Agency accounted for 72 times of our arrests in the city. The Ohio State Patrol 19 times, Perry Township 16 times, Columbiana County Sheriff 6 times, and Columbiana Police Department 7 times. Goshen had our assistance 1 time, Leetonia 2 times, Lisbon Police Department 2 times, and the Drug Task Force 1 time. Officers attended 34 separate training courses. We added Patrolman Jacob Hayter, Patrolman Sean Mark, and part-time Patrolman Austin Sinkovich to the force. Thomas Derby and Kirsten Skinner joined the dispatch department. In the area of equipment, we got a canine vehicle, Unit 12, 10 flock license plate readers, a new door ram, and 2 sets of ballistic plates for the newly formed quick response team. The department received a grant for bulletproof vests totaling $7,397.53. Shorty Navarro donated ballistic helmets totaling just under $20,000. Thank you to Shorty. ARPA grants for the officers' retention was $156,000 over 2 years, and that was completed at the end of '24. In the Planning and Zoning Office, the Planning and Zoning Office issued 310 permits in '24, 7 commercial industrial buildings, 13 new residences. 4 residential structures were demolished, 2 garages, and 3 commercial structures. The office issued 306 contractor permits and granted $7,607,000, I can't even say this big number, about $7.6 million in tax abatements on new construction. The street department had cut down 8 trees and ground the stumps. They demolished the concrete sidewalks along East State Street and South Lincoln for the Lincoln Plaza. They installed the main flagpole at Lincoln Plaza and poured concrete slabs and stamped and antiqued them for park benches in Lincoln Plaza. They removed the old light pole and ran wire and conduit for the Fountains wind sensor. They crack sealed State Street in the downtown to prevent deterioration. They sold the grindings from their street projects to RT Vernal for a profit of $12,404. They responded to 62 call-in requests from City Hall and the Police Department. They installed 615 feet of 12-inch pipe and 7 new catch basins. They applied 50 tons of hot mix blacktop and 23 tons of cold patch blacktop. They completed all annual tasks of mowing, tree trimming, ditch cleaning, trash pickup on all the roadways and vacant properties in the downtown area, and snow plowing. Currently, we had 1,700 tons of salt. That is no longer the case in '25. We repaired 100 feet of concrete curbing across the city. They assisted in completing the Birchfield Alley project as well as the Sugar Tree Alley walkway. They built a dumpster surround for Pershing Street West parking lot, as well as remodeling it for flow and appearance. They painted the walls and railings and light posts in the 2nd Street parking lots. They painted 97 light poles and bases all over downtown. The crew assisted with the setting of the granite base and setting the Lincoln statue in Lincoln Plaza. They purchased many new pieces of equipment, including a Husqvarna leaf blower, a Generac generator, a Stihl weed trimmer. The street department took delivery of a 2024 Western Star 5-ton plow dump truck. The cost was, hold your hats, $260,000. The truck is complete and fully operational. 2 of the main streets buildings were insulated and steel siding installed on the walls and ceilings. The gutters were installed on the truck garage. The buildings on Broadway were outlined in lights. They installed temporary speed bumps on Sunset parking lot for the safety of people, the children playing in the park and the residents on that street. The streets that were paved in 2024 were West 9th Street, Buckeye Street, West 12th Street, West 16th Street, dead end, West 14th Street, Park Street, State to Pershing, plus curbing. Prospect Street, New Garden to Sharp, East 9th Street, North, and 9th Street, North Union between 3rd and 10th. A lot of work for all these departments. The Health Department, 2024 was a transformational year for the Salem City Health District. It welcomed a wave of new hires, which introduced fresh thinking and new approaches. While the department grieved the loss of their vital statistics registrar and their director of nursing to retirement, we hired Kim Williams and Chelsea Clark to the positions respectively. Brooke Crockett assumed the role of deputy registrar and accreditation coordinator. 1,027 birth certificates were issued and 1,078 death certificates. The department remains accredited until 2027. The nursing department administered 426 vaccines. That is an 87% increase from 23. The total of 7 CPR courses were taught to the public. The department is still searching for another part-time public health nurse. The environmental division diligently inspected all of the licensed food facilities in Salem. They had 141 nuisance complaints that were investigated and 84 animal bites. After a devastating mercury exposure in May, more than 30 pounds of mercury were collected from multiple sources across the city and disposed of. The housing department has been hard at work. More than 1,260 rental units were inspected. Lack of smoke detectors and non-GFCI outlets near water sources were the top noted deficiencies. Inspectors responded to more than 200 housing-related complaints. Thanks to the workforce grant, the housing department is now comprised of a housing director who also serves as the health commissioner, a full-time housing inspector, and a part-time housing inspector. Salem Parks. The Parks Department hired a new Parks Director in 2024, Jacob Logan. Unfortunately, Jacob returned to his former employer in the fall of 2024. Jim Graham, Parks Foreman, retired in 2024, and Les Bryan was promoted to the position. A new Parks Maintenance crew was hired, Sean Luketic. John Panzot started his new 3-year term as a Park Commissioner in January 1st of 24, and Lucille Carnoffel completed her term as Commissioner at the end of 24. Park improvement and upgrades for 2024 were concrete repair to the pool, stainless welding to fix pool leaks, 2 new fountains at the duck pond. All park benches and tables were painted throughout the park. 1 more mural was painted at the pool with prep work for a second mural. Tree trimming was completed. The Salem Reservoir was restocked with fish. The old pool furniture was repainted. New LED lighting was placed at the band shell. Bee City painted a mural on the concession stand near the pollinator garden. Rotted fences and overgrown landscaping were removed at Centennial and Memorial Parks. Duckweed was removed from the duck pond. They painted the duck pond bridge and made updates to the island landscaping, replaced the, this is a good word that I have to think about before I say it. Diatomaceous. There you go. Diatomaceous earth filters at Centennial Park. Demolished the old garage at Kelly Park. Installed backflow preventer in multiple areas. Painted lines and signs at Sunset parking lot. They installed temporary speed bumps on the Sunset parking lot thanks to the Streets Department. They removed wallpaper and painted the inside of the park office. They increased the pool concession stand attendance and revenue by more than double from 2023 by improving the menu. We replaced the bridge at Swings and Things. Items purchased were new tools for the maintenance shop via grant funding, new pool vacuums, new pool furniture with grant funding, a flail boom mower attachment for the Kubota with grant funding, They acquired a new dump truck from the street department. They received a scholarship donation for all girls softball, t-ball teams to purchase uniforms and equipment. They got a new office printer copier. They purchased 3 AEDs now required by House Bill 47 for Centennial and Memorial Parks with a grant. They purchased paint to repaint the pool with a grant. Events, programs, and activities that they held were the Easter egg hunt in conjunction with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, where they gave out 10,000 eggs. Art in the Park Festival with the Salem Public Library, Tri-State Antique Club Show, the 3rd of July Fireworks and Fun, 14 Summer Concert Series nights in the band shell. Story Trail with Salem Public Library was the largest to date, with 518 in attendance. Trail of Treats and Costume Contest with Eyes for Olivia and the Salem Library was the largest to date, with over 1,000 attending, not including the 71 vendors. Bi-monthly Go Wild in the Park events were held with Salem Public Library, and they had a larger turnout than in previous years. Multiple events in Centennial Park included sports and family reunions and field days for school, 2 Kiwanis craft shows, letters to Santa, Summer Olympics, swim lessons where the attendance more than tripled from 23. Adult Swim Hour had a high attendance all summer long. Sporting events, Salem Junior Baseball League, Girls Recreational Softball League, Church League Softball, kickball games, Flag Football League, Salem High School Cross Country Meets, Salem High School Boys and Girls Tennis, Salem High School JV Softball, United High School Boys and Girls Tennis, Recreational League Co-ed Softball Tournaments, Sunday Soccer Leagues, Summer Basketball Leagues, and the grants received in 2024 amounted to $36,000 and another $8,500 in sponsorship for the girls softball. So they did a lot of work getting grants to pay for the things that they do in the park, and their attendance greatly improved. In the auditor's office, Sal Salvino started his term as the Salem City Auditor on January 1st. Sue Laughlin returned to her previous responsibilities as on a temporary basis as contract payroll clerk. Kimberly Salvino, no relation, accepted the position of the Deputy Auditor Trainee in 2024. The 2025 budget was completed by the last meeting of 2024 and passed by council. The carryover was a little over $1.3 million at the end of the year. The revenues for 2024, as reported by Rita, were $7,377,082.23. Our expenditures were $7,096,387.94. So we made more than we spent, which is always a good thing, according to Rita. The increased costs for 2024 were wages and benefits and inflation on supplies and purchases. Those things go up every year, but they've gone up quite a bit in the last 3 years since COVID. Our Rita refund from the 3% that they hold back to collect our tax was $139,000, which means we only paid 0.89% to collect the cost. So when I did the math on that, on the over $7.3 million, that means that the 3% that they held back was $221,310,000, which is less than we paid for a tax office to collect our taxes in the past. But we got a $139,000 refund on top of that, which means we truly only paid $82,310 to collect all of our taxes, which I think is a great savings for the city. The SOD Center. The SOD Center's priority focused on site development, business retention and expansion, entrepreneurial support, downtown development, workforce development, and housing. Our strong local businesses led the way with 4 expansion projects that accounted for $57 million in private investment. The SOD Center Training Center trained 521 students in 2024 for jobs here in the city, and that totaled 2,704 training hours at 50 courses. We dedicated economic development service resulted in $21 million in direct economic impact to the city of Salem. These numbers represent the economic impact of the city's investment in the SOD Center and in the economic future and growth of our community. New jobs and payroll, 85 were added to the city's payroll numbers. That accounted for $3,536,000. We retained jobs and payroll of 1,140 jobs, totaling more than $52 million. The project support $60,730. Grant awards were $604,000. They leveraged private investment at $3.4 million. The project private investment that they invested in over the year and worked to obtain were over $58 million. The work development was over $60,000. Elevate Solutions, which is the company that we formed with Columbiana to do our state permits so that people can more easily update their buildings and build new commercial buildings, was in its first full year. It provides local commercial permitting, and it does it in a reduced time period. Sometimes at the state, it's over 6 months before you get an answer or a permit, and their average at our Elevate Solutions was 12 business days. The building department issued 125 permits in '24. These permits resulted in over $27,000 in construction and $27 million in construction and new investment in Salem. 611,431 square feet of construction, 199 inspections. It's a lot. Salem Area Chamber of Commerce continued offering network opportunities such as 12 at 12, the Salem Area Safety Council meetings, as well as 9 ribbon cuttings, and 4 businesses hosted after-hours events. The Chamber's marketing campaign kicked off early in 2024, resulting in a record-setting 58 marketing sponsorships. These marketing sponsors make it possible for the Chamber to give back to the community through donations to the Banquet of Salem, the Brightside Project, the City of Salem Fireworks, Concerts in the Park, Quakertown Super Kids Race, Salem Community Pantry, Star Treks, and more. The community sponsored the Golden Easter Egg Hunt with 20 participating businesses. The Chamber Gallery of Art continued to increase the art presence in Salem by offering a full slate of exhibitions that are full through January of '26. Thanks to a grant from the Ohio Arts Council and support of Vic Marosher, tracking was installed to allow the gallery expansion. The Beautification Committee held its annual downtown cleanup with over 90 volunteers participating in cleaning up after Old Man Winter. The committee's Spring Adopt-A-Planner sold out, as well as their Holiday Adopt-A-Planner program. The Beautification Committee continued to recognize yard and businesses of the month from May to October. 17 teams participated in the Chamber's golf outing in July, and ticket sales from the downtown dining experience once again generated over $5,600 in proceeds donated to the United Way Services of Northern Columbiana County. In October, businesses and the Chamber offered treats and sponsored activities for families to enjoy Oktoberfest. Also in '24, the Chamber partnered with the Salem Public Library and the Salem Parks Department to award prizes for Scarecrow Shenanigans and the Trail of Treats costume contest. The Chamber reluctantly said goodbye to Lori Joel, the Executive Director, and Lori Anderson, the Administrative Assistant. The Chamber Board decided to change the Administrative Assistant position to a full-time position and change the title to Deputy Director. Alicia Johnston was hired for the new position, and Lori Wilson was hired as the Executive Director. In November, the Chamber sponsored its annual meeting where Sandra O'Donnell was recognized as the Citizen of the Year posthumously. Myers Insurance was named Small Business of the Year, Farm and Dairy as Large Business of the Year, and Salem Kiwanis as the Nonprofit of the Year. To end the year, the Chamber, in conjunction with the Salem News, sponsored the Christmas in Toyland Parade of Floats. In the Safety Director's office, the $700,000 grant for the Lincoln Plaza Phase 1 was completed using grants from ODNR through the State of Ohio capital budget. This required countless hours of administration, billing, and reimbursement for the grant, managing, addressing problems, and tasks for the completing of the project. The gazebo, fountain, parking spaces, landscaping, lighting, concrete work, and alley access paving were all completed with the exception of a few fancy gazebo finishes, which did finish last week. And we started on phase 2. The Safety and Services Director applied for and received $450,000 in Small Cities Congestion Grant to upgrade traffic signals software on State Street, $300,000 in ODNR funding from the capital budget for phase 2 of the Lincoln Plaza, $282,103 in a grant from the Ohio Public Works toward the paving of North Lincoln and East 9th Streets, $240,000 for the Safe Routes to School program for traffic signal upgrades at the 6th Street and North Lincoln intersections, and $100,000 in CDBG grant for paving East 4th Street, 5th Street, and 6th Street, to total about $1.4 million in grants in 2024. In addition, the Safety and Service Director negotiated a $199,000 reduction in the asking price for 763 East State Street property, a signing bonus for all of our cell tower contracts of $20,000, and an increased annual rental for our cell tower areas from $2,000 to $12,000, with the opportunity to increase users on the tower to bring in additional revenue. We upgraded the 2nd Street parking lot, painted all light posts and bases, painted the guardrails and the concrete walls, powder coated the metal steps between the parking lots, improved the landscaped areas, added additional electric service and upgrades, and added electric service and lighting to the trees along Sugar Tree Alley. A new security system was added to the City Hall, and the building was uplighted. The Pershing Street Municipal Lot near Bone Shakers received new lighting, new flashing pedestrian crosswalk at the Pershing Street lot. New furniture was added to the Birchfield Alley project with resealed asphalt surface and planters. It got quite a bit of use in 2024. The adjacent parking lot behind Broadway got a new light post and dumpster enclosure. Broadway Avenue was also upgraded with year-round tree lighting, lamppost lighting, the downtown corridor, State Street, North and South Lincoln, Ellsworth, Penn, Broadway, Sugar Tree Alley, and the 2nd Street municipal lots also got the lamppost lighting. We remodeled 2 street department buildings, which we talked about on the streets report. A punch list for the $2.5 million Franklin Avenue, which is State Route 344 ODOT project, was finalized. The grant program was continued for backs of downtown businesses and the residential sidewalks. It had more use in '24 than the year before, but not quite as much as I would have liked to have seen. We built a divider wall in the former Income Tax Department and Treasurer's Office to accommodate the addition of housing inspectors. The shelving was upgraded in City Hall basement for storage of records for both City Hall and Police Department. We set up meetings with business leaders and commercial property owners. For Andre Gross, the then property owner and the potential buyer met with us, which resulted in a deal for the purchase and renovation of that building after years of vacancy. We set up with Eurogyro, George Stocky and his daughter, which resulted in reconnecting him with our building department and finally reopening the business, Eurogyro. Josie's Pizza property owner Gary Eichler opened negotiations on a deal to purchase the property for the expansion of the Lincoln Plaza and additional parking. We also met with Dave Dinzio, which resulted in informing him of tax incentives and interest in his property on the east side of town. We installed lighting on buildings on both sides of South Broadway between State and Pershing. With the cooperation of the building owners, we are anticipating more of this on other blocks in the downtown as finances allow. Council formed a committee to renew the 0.25% income tax for 2025 to be used for streets, alleys, sidewalks, and parking lots. Council also passed 92 ordinances in 2024, with 2 ordinances tabled. 20 of these were financial transfers, appropriations, wages, tax issues, and investments. Some past ordinances were dealing with annexation, accepting and applying for grants. 2 declared a moratorium on permitting marijuana dispensaries in the city. 6 for commending former employees for their service to the city. 1 setting a citywide fee schedule, and others for going out for bids for equipment, supplies, and project planning and construction in the city and the utilities department. So as you can see, we've been really busy in the city of Salem, and your tax dollars have not been wasted as we have applied for millions and millions of dollars in grants to cover those things that we really just felt were above and beyond what our budget could handle. So thank you for listening to that whole thing. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor, for that comprehensive report. On to the Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you sticking around. Mine's only slightly longer. That's the same bad joke I say every year, but I never have an audience. So I thought I'd get a chance to say it. Sounds like the city's in good hands, Mayor. Thank you. I don't have an official report, just a couple of observations. First one's an easy one. My dad and I had an opportunity to try a fairly new little restaurant in town called Don Julio's, which is on the corner where Mario's Pizza used to be. I saw all the positive feedback on it on Salem Talks. We tried it out. So I think they've only been there since October. Guy used to run a food truck and now has a brick and mortar store, but excellent food, all fresh made. It was tasty. So if you get a chance, let's support a local business and try that out if you can. The other thing is, maybe many of you noticed the same thing, on State Street, it looks like one of our beautiful Century homes, another one might be going by the wayside. I saw a big excavator in the front yard of a house on State Street. It looks like apparently they're going to tear it down. I hope and assume that whoever owns that did everything they could to prevent that, but thinking about growing up in Salem, and I was blessed to have done that, one of our beautiful features of our city are those Century beautiful homes on South Lincoln and on State Street that bring people to town. My wife is not from Salem, and as a young girl, her cousin or her aunt would come to Salem to look at the big houses. So each time we lose one of those, I think it diminishes Salem a little bit, and it got me thinking: is there a process we can put together to help the people that own those to maybe save them, maintain them, sell them to somebody that could fix them, get some money to do that? And just an idea I had, and I know some of the people that sit here have the same interest in art and architecture that I do, and maybe we can come up with some idea to do that. And I'd sure appreciate any public input on that, because it's like a beautiful smile missing a tooth. When you go down the city street and all beautiful home, open lot, what happened there, what's missing. They don't build them like that anymore, so if we can save them, I'd sure like to be able to do that. And if anyone's got any ideas to help put something together that maybe we can rescue those things, I'd sure appreciate that input, and you can certainly reach me at my office as a law director. Other than that, no official report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the Law Director? Thank you. Auditor, Mr. Salvino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have an official report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the auditor? Safety Service Director, Mr. Capizzello.
Mr. President, I do not have a formal report this evening, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the Service Director? Parks Director, Kelly.
I'll be fast. About a month ago, we received a grant for $50,000 to redo at least 2 baseball fields, hopefully 4. So Centennial Park will be done this spring, and hopefully 2 more at Memorial. Last week, we bought a new truck. By new, it's 2016. And all of our levy paperwork, the renewal levy, it's a renewal, nothing new, was submitted on the 5th. And so thank you all for everything you did for that. And that's all.
Thank you, Kelly. On to the report of standing committees. The Finance Committee, which is myself. My committee met prior to our regular council meeting this evening. I will read the minutes from that meeting into report at our next regular council meeting. Other than that, I have nothing. Public Services Committee, Mr. Zellers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Residential Committee, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. While the Residential Committee is not met and I don't have a report for them, the Streets and Sidewalk Levy Renewal Committee will meet again on March 3rd here in Council Chambers at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Downtown Committee, Ms. Bear.
Mr. President, my committee has not met, and I have no formal report this evening.
Thank you. Rules and Ordinance, Mr. Stockman.
Thank you, Mr. President. My committee did meet on February 4th at 6 o'clock, and I'd like to read the minutes into record. The committee met on February 4th at 6 p.m. Members present, myself, Andrew Knoll, Sarah Bear, Ron Zellers, Brooke Zellers, Fire Chief Scott Mason, Police Chief J.T. Panzot, and Joe Capizzulo. I called the meeting to order to discuss guidelines and policies for the events in the city of Salem, along with an event proposal. I handed out copies of the examples I had received from other communities. The committee discussed several of the items on the event proposal, including applicant responsibilities, security plans, emergency plans, things like that. The chief discussed the fire department's responsibility for inspections of concessions for the cruise and the fireworks section of the proposal. Due to time, the committee decided to table the ordinance for events until another meeting can be held and the application narrowed down as well as the ordinance narrowed down. I asked the committee members to review the rest of the information and decide what should be removed or changed on it. The committee also quickly looked at Chapter 727, Section 4, Farm Market Location. I stated that the ordinance now has a location for farm markets at 568 through 600 of East State Street. I'd like to change that to be designated by the city administration or the city service and safety director. Motion was made to change that and revise that, and it passed 3-0 to send that section to the law director. I would like to also point out, Mr. Newman, is that yours is Monday then? The 3rd is a Monday?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
I would like to set a Rules and Ordinances Committee meeting for March 4th at 6 prior to our next council meeting. Again, I would like to try to tackle a little bit of the events ordinance with Mr. Zeller's help, as well as at least dabble into the commercial parking lot, construction, maintenance, residential driveway, parking, construction, and maintenance also. And that will be at 6 o'clock prior to our next council meeting on March 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stockman. Safety Committee, Ms. Bricker.
Thank you. My committee has not met, therefore I have no report.
Thank you. Economic Development, Mr. Gano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, the law director stole my joke on having a long report, so I have no report as a result.
No report, no joke, no nothing, huh?
Sorry.
Committee of the Whole, which is my committee, we have not met, and as a result, I have no report. On to the second and third reading of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Stockman, you have ordinance 250128-07.
Mr. President, if I could please, I would like to table that reading until our next council meeting, so the health department can meet to discuss. It'll be the third reading, but I'm gonna do it at next council meeting. They're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, good enough. Mr. Gano, you will be reading ordinance 250204-10 for me this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we suspend statutory rules so that ordinance -10 may have its second and third readings this evening for passage with the emergency clause.
Do I have a second? Mr. Stockman? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker? Yes. Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask the clerk read ordinance -10 by title only for its second and third readings for passage with the emergency clause.
Madam Clerk?
Being an ordinance authorizing appropriations and transfers as set forth below and declaring an emergency.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker? Yes. Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
On to introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Gano, you will be introducing ordinance 250-218-11 this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that the councils be suspended so we may introduce ordinance -11 this evening.
Do I have a second? Ms. Bricker?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that statutory rules now be suspended so that ordinance -11 may have all 3 readings and pass with the emergency clause this evening.
Do I have a second? Mr. Newman?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask the clerk read ordinance -11 by title only for passage this evening with the emergency clause.
Madam Clerk?
Being an ordinance to provide for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $355,000 of notes of the city of Salem to pay the cost of acquiring, equipping, and otherwise improving a fire truck, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
And Mr. Stockman, you'll be introducing ordinance 250-218-12.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend statutory rules so that ordinance 11 can be read for the first, second, and third readings tonight.
Do I have a
12,
s-
I'm sorry, 12. I said 11.
Do I have a second? Ms. Bear?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the clerk read ordinance 250-218-12 by title only for its first, second, and third readings for passage tonight.
Madam Clerk? May I have a second, please? Do I need a second?
No, we're just doing passage, we're just passing.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Being an ordinance modifying and amending section 727.03 of chapter 727 of part 7 of the codified ordinances of the city of Salem regarding city farm markets.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker? Yes. Mr. Knoll?
Yes. Ordinance passes. That concludes the ordinance and resolution component. We will now move on to pleasure of council. Mr. Gano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you for everybody coming out tonight. These meetings are a lot more fun when members of the community participate. So, thank you.
Mr. Newman?
I would just like to echo Councilman Gano's thoughts here. I appreciate everyone coming out and giving their thoughts on this important issue. And as Jake said, it's important to have you be a part of the legislative process and have your voices heard. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Bear?
I'm glad to be a part of government by the people and for the people, and it is a lot more fun to have you guys here. I remember the days when this was a normal occurrence, and glad to see you in chambers.
Mr. Zellers?
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing.
Ms. Bricker?
I too would like to thank you for your attendance tonight. Other than that,
Mr. Stockman?
I also, being last, would like to thank everybody for coming. So, thank you guys very much. It was nice to hear you speak and have a passion about what you're passionate about.
Yep, and you're welcome at any meeting. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be
Yes.
about a dispensary, so we encourage more attendance.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
that.
You made me arrange another person, and now I can go get it. I know. Oh, I know.
Explosive diabetes.
And I was like, I can't.
We're 34 minutes tonight. That may have been one of your faster ones.